And I am here with this message that just would not let me not share it. So it looks like I am live, 6 seconds. So I'm gonna give my community plenty of spaciousness to join me while I am enjoying this glorious carnation. So today the colors are white and yellow. I've been enjoying the beauty of carnations since spring. Something magical about these flowers. They're so simple, but they bring a lot of beauty to my heart. I wanted to give this topic a voice, beloved community, of how we can learn. And it's truly, I have found it, gosh, it took me so much humility to really open up my mind to this lesson. There is such gift when we learn how to give others space that is required for them to heal. And if you have family members, or maybe your partner, or maybe your child, maybe your teenage child, right? Anybody in your blood family who moving through a different evolutionary timeline comparing to you. What really helps in the situation where you feel like you're out of resonance in your conversation and your ability to be with them, right? You are maybe on a path of soul ascension and awakening, and you're deeply committed to your spiritual practices. And maybe your family or your business partners, right? I have a client like that who is very devoted to his spiritual discipline, but his business partner is very 3D and totally feels like this is his path, right? So how do you navigate life in its infinite wisdom? Very often will give us an opportunity to practice presence, compassionate communication with people who are on a different planes of consciousness, right? And especially when they're going um, through experience that looks like soul healing, right? Or maybe they have been invited. Maybe they're just like on the threshold and they're entering dark night of the soul. So how do you support others? And the number one discovery in my own personal journey was learning to give others space to heal. And I wouldn't be able to really transmit that if I didn't experience that in my own life. There were chapters in my life where I was deeply disconnected from my heart, from my body, from my life path, and I was feeling really stuck in the heaviness of unprocessed pain. And when you find yourself surrounded by a lot of unprocessed emotional pain, spiritual pain, and you don't have the tools, you don't even know where to start. And the years that helped you move through that experience was either not to look at the pain, right? Ignore it, or keep yourself so busy that you don't have any space to feel your pain, right? Or being distracted, chasing distraction, chasing, this momentary high. So a lot of times, from my personal experience and from just experience of working with so many people at different stages of their evolutionary path, when people either, yay, Tiffany, yes. So yeah, it's such a powerful message, loves, because the timeline is accelerating right now, and so many light workers and people who are on the path of ascension, they feel the gap is growing faster and faster between them and their loved ones. So we don't have to fear the gap. We gotta see the beauty of the gap. The gap is required for that soul to begin their own process of self-discovery, and it can look very intense from our perspective, or it can look like they disappear and then they don't talk to you, right? And I remember when I was going through that stage, and my best friend Chelsea, who is truly like such an example for me of compassionate relating, because when I was going through my way deep dive of dark night of the soul, I was numbing. I had no idea about trauma. I knew that I had a very intense childhood that I would not wish upon anybody, but I didn't have the language of trauma and healing. I was simply moving through my life, not feeling anything. This is the number one symptom of unprocessed trauma. You cannot access your feeling body, right? So in order for that healing to begin, I had to hit the rock bottom. So a lot of times the rock bottom, if it's your first dark night of the soul, is a very necessary experience. And if somebody is trying to intervene in your soul healing path and trying to rescue you or like influence you or even relieve you of your pain, it's not helping. It's actually shortcutting the lesson and makes the journey of the healing of the soul longer. What does help is unconditional loving witnessing. And you know who demonstrated that for me? My best friend Chelsea, because when I was in my darkest, most numbing episode, I would meet her, and I was not sober. I was like high. There was one time in my life where I was literally high every single day, totally numbed out of my life. I had a whole year and a half of daily drug addiction. And this was a very important chapter for me, to meet an addict archetype head on, and actually through this very unusual way to heal my soul and to learn to understand my father, who has been an addict all of his life, again because of the trauma and lack of tools. And when the soul is suffering, it's looking for a relief. And a lot of times drugs is the most fastest solution to give some soothing, right? So it's not a lack of willpower, it's the suffering of the soul. So when I was going through that episode, my best friend held space for me. And even if I felt her judgment, even a little bit, I would totally close myself off and disappear. The gift that she demonstrated to me for many, many months was this incredible trust in the sovereignty of my soul. She saw my higher self from the first moment she met me. And she met me right after my divorce, where, trust me, I was a total mess. Right after my divorce, I was like in my rebel archetype, and I was so disconnected. But it was my time to do that. And every person has their own journey. And I remember I had a conversation with my hairdresser, and she was telling me, Katerina, what are we gonna do with millennials? They're so lost. And I said, well, they are in their 20s. You're supposed to be lost in your 20s. It's a natural progression of evolution of the soul. You gotta lose yourself in order to start the search of the higher meaning, and then you're gonna find your way back, right? So a lot of times what looks like a complete confusion on the path of another, it's their process, it's their journey. So what my best friend demonstrated for me is this unconditional, heartfelt being and witnessing. And yes, I bet she had concerns about me, but she never told me, she never verbalized. She always treated me as an equal, as a sovereign soul who is going through intense transformation that looks like a total mess, like a total collapse, total numbing. But this is my journey, and this is how I was learning. And to me, I have learned that this is what really supports the healing. Give another soul space, and only when they're ready, they begin to reach for you, when they don't feel judged, when they don't feel like you are like, okay, time to transform, okay, rise up from your slumber, right? When you give them space, they begin to be magnetized by your presence. They begin to be magnetized by your compassion, right? And I find the most powerful is to see that higher self in another human being and give them space to heal, especially when they don't want to talk to you, especially when they distance themselves from you. It's just a quiet request that they cannot verbalize about, hey, I'm going through something intense, I need space to heal, and this is the only way I can communicate what I need. So, loves, I know I'm speaking general, but kind of like the key theme that I would like to offer is that people will heal when they are ready to feel their pain, right? And the consciousness and the soul has to feel ready to feel their pain. I had years of living feeling like there is a cement in my chest, right? I would probably say good 5 years, especially after my divorce. I couldn't even cry for the first 2 years. I looked at people who could cry easily with a sense of awe, like, you can access tears this much? And for me, it was a gradual process of coming to connecting to my heart, and it was a gradual process. And of course, when I found visionary plants such as ayahuasca, that was the huge opening and huge alchemy of the soul. So, and another thing that I also wanted to share with you is, the more when it comes to your family, there were so many years when I tried to bring them to enlightenment. This is so arrogant, like, really, if I'm honest about that, it's a really arrogant thinking that you can bring somebody to enlightenment, right? Ego just loves this story. The most the most sustainable way to create a positive influence is to simply live what you stand for. And walking your path with as much authenticity, not perfection. I did not say perfection. That's the problem with a religion that I see. When you join an organized religion, whatever it is, there will be an ideal of perfection shuffled down your throat in one way or another. And you will feel guilt or shame or fear because we cannot reach that level of fake perfection. Spirituality, from my deep personal experience, is a journey of authenticity. Authenticity. And authenticity is this coming more and more at peace with your process. Coming more and more at peace with the whole range of who you are. And that is such a powerful and magnetic emanation begins to beam from you. You don't even have to say much unless, you're being asked by spirit to be the voice for, what you share, right? So many incredible beings in my life live very simple and quiet lives. And the impact of every day that they live in simplicity and in quiet, the impact that I witnessed on their communities is awe-inspiring. So we don't have to be the loudest to be the most influential, right? So this was my big humility lesson. Whenever I think that, what can I do to bring my family to enlightenment? I already know I'm standing on the wrong footing, right? And loves, from my experience, the more I would back off from putting anything on my family, and the more I just saw their sovereign souls, and actually meet them with gratitude every time. It was like totally finding delight in getting to know them every single time I see them. Let me get to know you in a new way, because you are a new being. I am a new being, right? And it's so the growth of my relationship with my blood family, every year our relationship becomes more authentic, and to me that is so rewarding, right? It's not perfect, it's messy at times, but it's becoming more and more authentic. And to me, that's the goal, the gold, not the goal. That's the gold, right? So the more I would back off from putting anything on my family, the more they would expand into their own sense of empowerment, into their own path, into their own illumination. And then nothing is more fulfilling when they begin to reach for you. And, to receive a WhatsApp message from my older sister who never asked me advice for anything my entire life. And then receive a message and she would say, Katerina, what's the simplest daily practice I can start that will help me understand myself? When they reach and they ask you that question, wow, their consciousness is so available, their consciousness is so ready, and you can offer, literally like an offering, thank you for asking. This is what I found is useful on my path. And I recommend journaling. Journaling is the first little step that I recommend for anybody who wants to get to know themselves and to get to know their soul. So every person will receive the gift of awakening. It's encoded in our DNA, it's encoded in the script, it's encoded in our path, and there is no awakening alike, which is so marvelous. That awakening is such an individual experience. There is never gonna be the same awakening story, right? So all we can do is just celebrate each other's journeys. And when somebody in your life is asking, whether it's verbally or unconsciously, simply by pulling away and not being receptive to what you share, silently in your heart, thank them and see their light and their consciousness, and hold the unconditional presence and witnessing for their process, because quite possibly the day will come, maybe a few years, maybe a few decades, when they will say to you, this what shifted me, because I never felt judged. I never felt like you wanted to fix me. I felt loved. I felt loved. And what a powerful assignment, right? Be the field of love and know that your impact happens through frequency. And right now there's so much transformation, so much growth on the planet, so much spiritual wisdom is readily available, right? And what people are drawn to is authenticity. Authenticity. So I hope this brought some light and inspiration for you. I wanted to do this video before I go offline completely in 2 days. And I will see you, loves, all the way back in August. I love you. Thank you for sharing this time with me.